Do you know? Just give me 1 second.
Did any of you come here at 3, like me?
No.
Was it not in your calendar?
No?
Okay, you're ready whenever you are.
All right. Well, good afternoon, and we are now on the record. This is the regular meeting of the San Dieguito Water District, and it is just after 5 p.m. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, can we do a roll call?
Absolutely. Board Member Hinsey,
Here?
Board Member Kranz.
Here.
Board Member Lyons.
Here.
Vice President Blakespear,
Here.
President Mosca.
I am here. So let's,
Record will show that all members of the board are present, and please note that San Dieguito Water District board members receive an independent stipend of $100 for convening the Water District meetings pursuant to San Dieguito Water District Resolution Number 89-07.
great, thank you. Let's, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have any special presentations tonight, and we will move to oral communications. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody that would like to address the Water District Board?
We have none.
All right, then we'll move to, we don't have a report from closed session. Are there any changes to the posted agenda?
There are no changes to the posted agenda.
All right, we have consent calendar, 2 items on the consent calendar. Do we have any comments on the consent calendar?
I will move to approve the consent calendar.
So we have a motion.
I'll second that.
And we have a second.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great. And then we don't have any action items, so we're going to move to our informational items. And the first item is Lake Hodges Dam informational update, and that is by our general manager.
Thank you, President Mosca and members of the board. This presentation will be a brief outlook of the Lake Hodges Dam and the different steps that has been taken during the past couple of years. I will be addressing background. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be addressing background, the agreements that are currently in place, the restriction by Department of Safety of Dams, and the proposed improvement projects, and the cost estimates and schedules for the improvements. Lake Hodges Dam was built in 1918, and it's a multiple arch concrete dam, and the top of the elevation is at 330 feet. The spillway crest elevation is 315 feet. The total capacity is approximately 10,000 million gallons, and the watershed area is about 3,300 square feet. San Dieguito Water District had rights to the Lake Hodges water since 1923. In 1998, San Diego and the San Diego County Water Authority entered into an agreement to utilize Lake Hodges as part of the Water Authority's emergency storage project. In 2014, an amendment to the 1998 agreement was developed and executed that clarified the district's water rights and the Lake Hodges reservoir storage allocation between the parties involved. Per the 2014 amendment, the approximately 30,000 acre-feet of total storage capacity at Lake Hodges were to be shared as follows. City of San Diego, 5,000 acre-feet, the district's 5,000 acre-feet, and that's both San Dieguito Water District and Santa Fe Irrigation District, and the County Water Authority, 20,000 acre-feet. The districts receive 50% of the inflow into Lake Hodges, and the other 50% is received by City of San Diego. County Water Authority does not receive any of the inflow that comes into Lake Hodges. The inflow is divided between the districts. San Dieguito Water District receives 21.33%, and Santa Fe Irrigation District receives 28.67% for the first 7,500 acre-feet, and anything beyond 7,500 acre-feet is actually shared equally between the two districts. That's per the agreement that is currently in place. In 2018, DSOD inspected Lake Hodges Dam and identified the following deficiencies: instability under seismic loading conditions, potential overtopping of the dam, erodibility of the foundation, and localized areas of concrete deterioration and cracks. DSOD currently rates Lake Hodges Dam condition as poor, and this DSOD actually uses the Army Corps of Engineers rating for condition of dams. And the definition of poor under the Army Corps of Engineers is as follows. A dam safety deficiency is recognized for normal operating condition that may realistically occur. In September 2019, Department of Water Resources Division of Safety of Dams accepted the city's proposal to restrict the Lake Hodges Dam level to 295, which is 20 feet below the spillway crest elevation. This DSOD restriction will provide an interim risk reduction measure while a comprehensive assessment and dam safety improvements are completed. Department of Safety of Dams will allow infrequent exceedance above the restricted level up to a maximum elevation of 297 feet for no more than 10 consecutive days. In case the reservoir elevation exceeds the 297 elevation, the DSOD requires immediate release of water through the Lake Hodges low-level outlet system, which is the emergency blow-off. The blow-off will be operated at its maximum capacity in conjunction with the water distribution system until the reservoir is restored back to the restricted level of 295. This slide summarizes the storage of all parties involved before and after the level restriction. As shown, the level restriction reduces the storage capacity of districts from 5,000 to 2,170 acre feet, which is prorated based on the restriction level capacity of 13,000 acre feet at the 295 level as compared to the original storage capacity of 30,000 acre feet at elevation 315. It also shows the options available to lower the elevation of the dam, be that through the use of local water at Badger Filtration Plant or through the transfer of water to the Rivenheim Reservoir or County Water Authority Aqueduct. Or the third unfavorable option is to release water through the low-level outlet system as occurred during the April 10, 2020 rain event. The district worked closely with the City of San Diego and County Water Authority to prepare an operation plan for Lake Hodges as a guidance for the operation of Lake Hodges due to the level restriction. The plan was submitted to DSOD in early 2020 and was approved. The main goals of the plan are maintain dam safety and minimize the loss of local water while considering environmental and community impacts. The goals will be achieved by complying with the Department of Safety of Dams requirements, forecasting potential runoff, and effective communication among all stakeholders. To maximize the capture and use of local water, San Dieguito Water District and Santa Fe Irrigation District worked with CWA to develop an agreement for the storage of local water at the Olivenhain Reservoir and for the sale of local water to County Water Authority, which was approved by the board in August 2020. This agreement will minimize the impact of level restrictions by allowing the district to sell water to County Water Authority or to store it in the Olivenhain Reservoir. In addition, recently we started discussions with City of San Diego in order to be able to buy their stored capacity at Lake Hodges whenever it's available. And this will maximize the district's local use and minimize water loss. City of San Diego, as the owner of the Lake Hodges Dam, hired GEI consultant to perform comprehensive condition assessment of the dam as was requested by the Department of Safety of Dams. And as part of that assessment, they included concrete deterioration, dam stability, spillway capacity, overtopping during a large storm event, emergency drawdown of the lake level, and monitoring instrumentation system. GEI proposed to address the deficiencies in three phases. The first phase is spillway apron repair. The second one is near-term improvements, and the third one was long-term improvements. I'm just going to go through each and every one and give a brief description of what it includes. On the spillway apron repair, the deficiency that were identified had to do with the concrete deterioration. The structure does not meet current design standards and potential erosion of underlying rock, that jeopardizes the integrity of the concrete structure. For the near-term repair and improvement plan, GAI proposed the following plan. Leak sealing, as you can see from the map, there are certain areas that, from the photos, there are certain areas that are leaking. And leakage monitoring in order for us to figure out how much actually is leaking out of that and replace the current instrumentation that's in place. For the long-term improvement, it was clear to the different stakeholders that the main objective of the long-term improvements is to address all dam deficiencies, ensure the proposed project will meet the safety criteria for up to 100 years, and to limit the reservoir level during major flood events. GEI developed 6 alternatives to comprehensively address the existing dam safety deficiencies. A new rolled compacted concrete dam appears to be preferred in terms of dam safety performance, limiting the reservoir level during major floods, constructability, operation and maintenance, and present worth cost over a 100-year period after construction of the dam. In January, at the San Diego County Water Authority Engineering and Operation Committee, the City of San Diego provided an overview of the city's overall dam program, along with detailed information on the Lake Hodges Dam Rehabilitation Replacement Project. This slide and the next 3 slides are actually taken out from that presentation. During the County Water Authority Engineering and Operation Committee meeting, the City of San Diego provided the following outline of the tasks that they will be working on to accomplish the different phases of the project. The main tasks in the long-term planning will be the environmental impact studies, interagency agreements, feasibility study, and public outreach. The design phase will include the environmental permitting and the dam modification application to DSOD. In addition, the city revised its cost estimate and schedule for the long-term improvement projects. The current estimated cost for the preferred alternative, which is building a new dam, is $270 million. The district share will be approximately 10.7% of that, which is about $30 million. This slide shows the schedule that was proposed by City of San Diego in coordination with all different agencies. There are currently 2 Department of Safety of Dams deadlines that needs to be met. The near-term improvements, the deadline for that is December 2022, and the spillway repair, the deadline for that is 2023. The long-term improvements per the City of San Diego schedule is to be completed by fiscal year 33. With that, I conclude my presentation. I'm ready to answer any of your questions.
Well, thank you so much. I think this may be the 4th time that I've heard it, the discussion, maybe even more. But this was very comprehensive, and it does definitely get better every time. I did want to say that what was just presented is very complex, and there's a lot going on here. But it's going to be a conversation that's ongoing for many years. I think the point is that right now, the near-term improvements are on schedule. The long term, we're looking at the options. The City of San Diego is the lead on this. They're looking at options. They have some of the options before the state, and soon a preferred option would be identified. And we also are working together, the City of San Diego, the County Water Authority, working together to lobby for as much money as possible. The City of San Diego has a lot of dams that need to be improved, according to the latest analysis. But we are all working together to bring as much money to bear on this issue as possible. And I think it's important to say also that when we are successful with getting money from the federal government and from the state, that it will be basically split among all the parties. So it's lowering everybody's overall requirement here. So if the City of San Diego with their lobbyists happen to be successful and it can be traced back to them, it's not basically meaning that their overall liability is going down, but the entire liability is going down. So just wanted to make mention of that. Vice President Blakespeare?
Yeah, thank you. I was just curious about the fact that the County Water Authority doesn't have any rights to the water, and so they're probably not much involved in having this be a project a long-term project on their CIP program, right?
CWA has rights to 20,000 acre feet, but they don't have any rights for the inflow that comes, which is when it rains, the inflow that comes into the Lake Hodges, they don't have any.
So what
rights
is
to
the
that.
right they do have?
They have 20,000 acre feet out of the 30,000 acre feet.
We have storage rights there, which are critically important, and under initiatives in the past, that there was a desire for the County Water Authority to make sure that we have so much water in emergency storage. And actually, this project is in our CIP. There has been a little bit of rumbling by board members because they don't realize the importance of this project. But we've been very good at basically making sure that they understand the importance and that if you had to go purchase emergency storage, which you can't do, that it would cost you millions of dollars per acre foot. And so this is a conversation that some board members are having. But at the end of the day, the County Water Authority has this project in the CIP for some of the outer years that line up with the city of San Diego.
But so you said that the County Water Authority doesn't have any right to the inflow.
Yeah, which
So-
is the runoff, yes.
So are they pumping water in there? When they're storing it, they're pumping it in from somewhere else?
On the emergency storage project, they actually pump water between Lake Hodges and Olive and Hine, and that's how they generate some of the electricity, and that's part of the emergency project that they have.
I see.
So they have to maintain a certain level in Lake Hodges themselves in order for them to operate their pump station.
Okay. So when there are grants that are being pursued, are they being pursued by the city of San Diego or by the County Water Authority?
At this point in time, none of them is actually pursuing that I'm aware of, but the whole point in the agreements that we have with both CWA and the city of San Diego, any monies that come to the upgrades of the dam will be shared between the different agencies. And it's very clear, any third-party funding, will be distributed among the three organizations.
And is nobody pursuing any grant money right now because there's not a design?
Exactly right. I mean, City of San Diego is at the early stage. They have to go through the planning process, which I mentioned. They have to reach out to the public, and there is the environmental permitting and all that in order for them to decide what is the option that is most feasible for them to build, the
Okay.
most viable option.
Because this chart shows it's imminent, like 2024 is just right around the corner. So it does seem like there needs to be haste on that.
But that's when they're going to start the process of the long term. They're
Right.
now concentrating on the short term and on the apron. Let me try to see if I can pinpoint it on here. So the SOD deadline for the near repair is basically sometime at the end of this year, which is December 2022, and then the Hodges apron spillway is 2023. And these are smaller projects, and they are only in the $3 million to $800,000. So it's $3.8 million the total cost for these two projects
Right.
that they're going to do. And then after that, they're going to start the long-term project, which is going to take about 10 years from the time they start to the time it's ended.
Okay. Yeah, because it seems like there's a lot of money for infrastructure projects like this. So it seems there are a lot of agencies really focused on getting their projects together so they can apply for this federal money and state money. So I just want to make sure that
Yes, and
we
I'm-
feel
I'm-
that's all on track.
And I'm
So
sure,
even though-
I'm sure City of San Diego will have to apply because City of San Diego has 9 different dams, and most of them need some kind of an improvement. So I'm sure they will be pursuing funding and grants for all the CIP projects that they have to do.
And even though there's not a project identified at this point, so I sit on the legislative committee for County Water Authority, and we've had our federal lobbyists and our state lobbyists before us several times, and we have been instructing them to help us with this for a while. And so even though we don't have a project, we've been coordinating with the city of San Diego and with the County Water Authority on lobbying now for money and identifying money now. And so though we're not applying for grants, we very much are setting up meetings and identifying which committees are important and what source of money could be out there in the future. So, Board Member Krantz?
Thank you. I appreciate the dam report. And I look at this and marvel a bit, scratch my head somewhat at how the long-term improvement planning process and design process could ever take that long. And I acknowledge that my world of the private sector printing business is significantly different than the engineering and studies that need to go into this, but it just strikes me as crazy that it takes that long to get to the point where we're building, especially given the fact that the new dam is essentially going to be, 100 feet to the west of the existing dam?
South.
So it just is, it's not like we're starting from scratch and having to really, it just seems like it shouldn't take that long. But that's, I'm sure, driven by naivete. In the meantime, the other significant concern of mine is this issue of having to spill stormwater. And so I would feel much better if we had a better sense of the planning that's going into that. Now, there was mention made of the ability to pump water up to the Liebenheim Municipal Water District Reservoir, and that's good. I'm assuming that that's probably the most important tool in managing the inflow of water, but I hope that there is a pretty good plan, because wasting water over this dam because of the height restrictions of the water level really makes me nervous. So that's another little something that would be good to have additional information and that certainty that we're going to be able to deal with that. And, so I'm thinking that there's some forecasting involved. We've got a certain level. We know there's a storm coming. We expect it to last X number of days. And, and so I know there's a lot of smart people that are thinking about this stuff, but it would be good to be able to ensure the public that we have that. And because I don't like the idea of having to waste water over the dam. So those are the two thoughts that I had as I was watching your presentation. I hope we could do more quickly. I know that the Vice President mentioned the resources that are going to be made available in the near years. So missing out on that to me is a little bit frustrating. So meanwhile, I think that that slide that says the spillway repairs and the near-term planning and the fixes for that, once those are complete, will allow us to have maximum capacity, or?
The SDWD did not promise that they will allow us to do that. That would continue until the new dam is built.
I see.
So the restriction is going to be there. And just to follow on your comments, we are trying to get as many tools as possible in order for us to avoid any opening any of the blow-offs or spilling any of the water that we have at Lake Hodges. That's why we are working with San Diego in order to figure out how we can purchase their water. But all different agencies, we work very closely together. For example, during the December rain event that happened during the holidays, we were coordinating to move water out from Lake Hodges in order to make room for the runoff that's coming in. City of San Diego moved some, CWA. We were going to move some of our water because we have that capability, but the rain event was not as big as we anticipated it to be, and we were not exceeding the 295 feet level.
So the near-term repair and improvement plan, I'm disappointed to learn that that's not going to increase the capacity again. So this notion of a cost-benefit analysis of spending those millions of dollars for the near-term improvement plan, I assume we're going to do that because if we don't, that the condition deteriorates to the point where we may have a catastrophic failure or something.
Yes.
But these are, again, important issues that I would like to be able to make the case to the public as to why we're spending those millions of dollars on near-term repair and improvement plans when they don't increase the capacity. So I think it was mentioned the complexities and how many presentations you get, and this is not an easy subject to get your arms around, but I hear some things in this presentation that make me desire more information. So hopefully we can get that here in the near future. Thank you.
So the state requires the near term and the long term. So it's
Yes.
not as if we're doing it because we think these are things that we can do and increase capacity right away. It's state regulations that are requiring us to do this near term and then the more long-term exercise. And I would say that building a whole new dam downstream and continuing to keep the other dam up has environmental impacts that need to be studied. And the way that we do it nowadays could take 24 months, 2 years to kind of do that. So it adds to the plan. And then when you're building something as large as that, it just takes a long time to build. The other thing too is I think that our water district was really quite successful in putting the agreement together that actually allows for this kind of amazing coordination that we've seen play out over the last several years, that allows for the movement of water seamlessly from agency to agency to ensure that it's not spilling over, because nobody wants it to spill over because it's wasted water. And so I think that it's been successful, and that gives a little bit more confidence that actually replacing this dam sometime down the line is going to be successful, because we'll be able to work together, because we have been working together. But maybe we can bring that agreement back and just kind of highlight how that agreement works and in practice what we do.
Okay, we can do that. And I'm hoping that we will be getting this agreement with the city of San Diego so that we can use their storage capacity also to our Badger plan. Instead of them moving it, we can utilize it whenever we have not enough water.
And I
for
think
our
that that's
use.
something that this board would be interested in understanding more. I know that I've had conversations with other board members, and I don't know if we've ever had that conversation as a full board about any kind of desire to purchase more water. I assume that there is a desire, but I think that this board probably should have that conversation.
And we just initiated, like 2 weeks ago, initiated this discussion. So once we get a better understanding of it, I will make sure that I bring it to the board before we actually move into the negotiations or any of that sort, to make sure that the board is on board with us going that route.
Perfect. Board Member Lyons?
Thank you, President Muska. My question, I have two questions, more associated with the long-term improvement plan. And I know we're just starting the planning stage, so we may not know the answer yet. If we do, that's great. Otherwise, maybe you have some ideas. But first of all, in the long-term planning for the new dam, the replacement, are we looking in the direction of adding capacity? Or are we thinking it's just going to be a replacement at the same capacity?
It's my understanding it's going to be a replacement at the same capacity. GEI looked into increasing the capacity, and they were based on the geography and based on Highway 5 and whatever have you. I don't think that they can actually raise the dam to a certain level. In addition to the fact that there is environmental impacts, I forgot what the name of Greebies is. There's a nesting season, so there's a certain level that they can nest at, and that's one of the concerns that we had when lowering the dam and lowering the elevation of the dam or raising it. So there are several different options that have been looked into, but at the same time, we want to keep in mind this was a high-level evaluation of the different alternatives. The city of San Diego will have to dig deeper into it to figure out what is the best alternative that we have, because GEI was just looking at the bigger picture of what the alternatives are. So they're going to be moving into what they call the feasibility study and do 10% design, and based on that decide what is the best option and then what is the best elevation of the dam would be.
Okay. And my second question then is, do you see or do you sense that there's any interest in the stakeholders and parties renegotiating any of the existing agreements we have based on this milestone of having a new dam? Is that also going to kick in some dialogue on renegotiating?
You know, reading, obviously there will be some kind of interagency agreements that will have to be put in place depending on what we're going to build in the future. But for currently, whatever we have as agreements with the agencies, I think it's for the best benefit of the district, and all items are actually, the clauses are for our benefit, especially with the 2014 amendment that clarified exactly what our storage capacity is, what happens to the runoff. It talks about any improvements and costs for operation and maintenance for capital improvement projects. So based on what I read, and I'm not a lawyer, but I mean, based on from an engineering perspective, it is a very good agreement that clarified all the different clauses as compared to the the 1998 one, which was very vague from our perspective of things.
Oh, I see, good, good. I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like you feel like we're in a good position, and that's going to hold steady through a new physical structure.
Yes, but we will be looking into new interagency agreements if a new dam is built, because there might be some impacts that will come in the future that we are not aware of at this point.
That's right, okay, good, thank you.
But it's not necessarily in our interest, because I think that the folks that came before us negotiated some really good dam
I agree.
deals.
Yeah, no, actually, it was really good. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind that it protects the district. It's very clear.
Especially
what
for a
our
small
rights-
district our size.
Yeah, I agree.
It's incredible.
I agree.
Yeah.
But-
And just so you guys know this already, ESOM actually came from the city of San Diego and from the very wheelhouse where some of this stuff is happening. And so
Yeah.
that's why he has lots of knowledge and advanced understanding of this as well.
Actually, my first communication with DSOD was with me, and they wanted to reduce it to 290 feet. So we had to do some negotiations because the County Water Authority cannot run, or the state of San Diego cannot run their recreation facility or the emergency storage
Right.
project below 292. So, yeah, I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, and so are we.
All right. Vice President Blakespear?
Thank you. It is great to hear that you're here. I'm glad you were able to negotiate that.
Yes, I do very much.
I just wanted to give one comment of support for making sure that we're always applying an environmental analysis around the bird seasons and the fish and all the wildlife out there, because I periodically read an article or hear from an environmental group that decries something happening at Lake Hodges, that there was a flood of the eggs for some species or something like that. That's always kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that I voice from this policy level that it's really important that we do everything we can to protect the environment as we're managing the water.
And it's part of our evaluation each and every time we lower the lake or increase the level of the lake, Hodges, that we take that into consideration.
Thank you. Board Member Krantz?
I just want to make it clear that I wasn't suggesting that we wouldn't do an environmental analysis, but I think the difference between building a backup dam and creating a lake there's a significant difference there. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have any shortcuts in the process, but I do think that ultimately you're going to find that the environmental impact report is easier to manage.
Yeah. Especially, I think we had some, I think I was president when we celebrated the 100th birthday of this dam. I think it was this dam. It was the San Diego. It was the San Diego one.
No, and this was
this one.
2018. It was the Lake Hodges. City of San Diego did not do any celebration at the time, but there were other.
Yeah, we have our names on plaques.
Yeah.
But I remember them saying that it was like a year, like it was designed and implemented within a year.
Yeah.
It was built in a year?
Yeah, or maybe a little bit more, but it was designed and
yeah.
implemented within a year.
I'll have to go to the book that board member Lyons.
There's a book on history of our dams.
Yeah, exactly right. To see exactly how many years it actually took to build that dam.
I also would hope that there would be some additional capacity just from the fact that we're moving, the new dam is going to have to be built a little bit further away. So the difference in there's some capacity there between the current dam and the new dam. And I would assume that we're going to disassemble once with, that old dam is just going to sit there forever?
Yeah, just
or-
the top is coming
Yeah,
out.
the discussion on the high level, as I said, this is again GEI high level evaluation, is they will not going to be able to take the whole dam out because there's going to be a lot of environmental impact because of the sedimentation that's behind and dredging and what. So, and again, I just want to emphasize the fact that this is a very high level design, and when we go into the 10% design, that's when we'll have a better understanding of what exactly that's going to be built.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no more discussion on this item, we'll receive and file this item and move to 11B, which is water supply conditions update, and that is our water resource specialist, Han, who's going to give that report.
Thank you, President Mosca, members of the board. I'm here to give the water supply conditions update. On this first slide, you'll see the U.S. Drought Monitor. You can see on the bottom part of the state that our region is under a D1 or moderate drought category. You can also see that a larger proportion of the state has moved from D3 and D4 into the D1 and D2 categories when compared to 3 months ago and the start of the water year, which is encouraging. Moving on, this is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA's, temperature outlook for 8 to 14 days. Our region is forecasted to be above average temperatures at a probability of 50 to 60%. You can also see that a majority of the state and country is forecasted to experience above average temperatures over the next 2 weeks. Moving on to the NOAA precipitation outlook. Our region is forecasted to experience below average precipitation at a probability of 40 to 50%. A majority of Southern California and the Colorado River Basin is also forecasted to experience below normal precipitation over the next 2 weeks. On the next slide, you'll see the DWR snow sensor and snow water content data. Our focus is on the northern region. These areas are the headwaters to the State Water Project. The northern region is reporting 54% of the normal for the state. And on the graph to the right, you can see that after a promising start to the water year, that we are trending below average snow water content at this moment. Moving on, this is DWR's Northern Sierra Precipitation Station 8 Index. This is also used because this covers the headwaters of the State Water Project. You can see that we are currently trending below the average water year. This, again, after the promising start to the year, we've experienced record dry January and Februaries that have us trending below average. And moving on to the major reservoirs and Lake Oroville levels. Lake Oroville storage sits at 71% of historical average and is trending close to levels shown in 2014 and 15, which is the green line on the graph to your right. San Luis Reservoir currently sits at 53% of historical average, and the current State Water Project allocation is set at 15%. This is following an initial allocation of 0%. Given the dry January and February, we may see that number adjusted again. And we are in, as far as the reservoir levels go, there are big challenges because we are in the third year of a drought. Moving on to the Colorado River, this is the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Colorado headwaters, precipitation, and snow water equivalent graphs. You can see that we're trending along the 30-year median that is shown in the green line in both graphs. The Lake Mead storage currently sits at 8.94 million acre feet, which is 34% of capacity, which is very alarming. And the Colorado River remains in a declared water shortage. Moving to Southern California reservoir levels, this is Metropolitan's reservoir storage in Southern California. Lake Matthews currently sits at 64% of capacity, Diamond Valley Lake at 70%, and Lake Skinner, which through the Skinner filtration plant services Riverside and San Diego counties, sits at 79% of capacity. And these are the local conditions in terms of precipitation and Lake Hodges inflows. Lindbergh Field reported 31.8% of normal precipitation for February and 62.3% for the water year. Ramona Airport, 44% in February and 68.8% for the water year. You can see that Lake Hodges sits at 84% of capacity. This is also accounting for the reduced storage capacity. And also, you can see that the total runoff inflows reported at Lake Hodges, you can see the figures there. And please keep in mind, as mentioned before, that the district has rights to approximately 21% of the Lake Hodges inflows. And then the final slide will be covering the district's conservation actions. You may recall that that Governor Newsom declared a drought state of emergency statewide on October 19th of 2021. This asked for agencies to voluntarily conserve 15%. Yesterday, the state board reported statewide and regional conservation figures for January. You can see that statewide negative 2.6 was conserved, meaning that we as a state used 2.6% more water than we did in 2020. For the South Coast region, negative 1.8 was conserved, which again is using more water than we did in 2020. The good news is that the district reported 5.3 conserved for the same month, which is lower than our 2020 usage. You can also see that the number of wastewater leak reports that the district has received this water year. The district continues to investigate every report and notifies all customers using our established notification procedure. And this concludes the report. Thanks for the time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. I'm wondering if we could, in the future, perhaps put SFID there and also OMWD, because I think that those would be great comparisons as well, just to kind of, to really give us, especially with OMWD, just a comparison to what the other part of our city is doing as well. I think the data from Lake Mead is disturbing. And when you look at the precipitation for the upper and lower Colorado Basin, it's really concerning. And that's obviously where we're getting the bulk of our water here in the region, San Diego region. So it's something we have to continue to monitor. Even though we still step into the shoes of some of the farmers in Imperial Valley, so we're not necessarily seeing some of the cuts, but we will if those numbers continue to go down. Board Member Lyons.
Thank you, President Muska. I just have a quick clarification question. It didn't come to mind until your last slide there. As far as the wastewater leak reports, is that a system we have in place that identifies where there's leaks in the public water system, or could you just give me a little bit more detail around that?
Sure. The numbers that you see on the slide are actually from public complaints. So we mentioned in our report in January that we've created a public water waste complaint form on the district's website. We also get that information, from phone calls, and we also get that information from the My Encinitas app, which requires coordination with the Public Works Department. But yes, we are investigating all of those.
That's the source. Okay, thanks for reminding me. Yep.
Sure.
All right, any further discussion? Well, thank you so much for your presentations, and we'll receive and file these presentations. And we'll move on to our next item, which is board member reports pursuant to AB 1234. Any board members have anything to report? If not, we'll move on to item number 13, which is general manager report update.
Just quickly, during the next board meeting in April, we are having San Alejo General Manager and Encinitas General Manager. They're going to come and give a presentation about potable reuse and what the steps they have taken, just to update the board on that. Second thing is in 2 days, we're celebrating our 100-year anniversary. So it's this Friday, and we were going to be having our luncheon with staff on Monday at 11:30. I hope all of you will be able to join us. And at the end of that luncheon, we would like to have a picture with staff and the board members. We will be arranging for that outside on the patio in the community center.
Great.
And that's hence my.
Great. And it was, I think that the meeting that ISOM is putting together, bringing San Alejo GM and also EWA, Encino Wastewater Authority's GM, together to talk about potable reuse is really an important discussion. And when you look at the data we just saw, where we're losing potential water supplies because of drought, here's a brand new water supply. And so I think we really need to, and I know that this is kind of preaching or singing to the choir, as they say, but this choir sings, as they say, as well. So, it's really important to kind of connect all these dots. And it may not happen today or tomorrow or the next day, but building that foundation now so that in maybe 10 years from now, we have a potable reuse project that actually is delivering water is so incredibly important. So glad to hear that that's going to be on the agenda and that we're going to be discussing that. All right, if there's no other items before this board, I'm going to adjourn the board. We are adjourned.
so very much. Yes, I can't hand it in for you.
just a couple of seconds here. Okay, we're ready whenever you are.
Okay. Well, thank you. Good evening, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. This is the official meeting of the Encinitas City Council, the regular meeting, and it is Wednesday, March 16, 2022 at 6 p.m. May we please have a roll call?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Hensy.
Here?
Councilmember Kranz.
Here.
Councilmember Lyons.
Here?
Deputy Mayor Mosca.
Here?
Mayor Blakespear.
Here.
Record will show that all members of the City Council are present.
Okay, thank you. And I invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to hand it over to the Deputy Mayor to manage the special presentation today.
All right, so we have a presentation from San Diego Community Power, and I am so excited and proud to have this presentation. It seems like yesterday we were talking about Community Choice Energy Program as a strategy for reducing greenhouse gases locally. We put it in our climate action plan, and it is a major strategy within our climate action plan for reducing our greenhouse gases locally and moving ourselves to 100% renewable energy. And you just need to look around the world today and see why, from climate effects to military actions around the world, why it means so much for this country, for this state, for this local government to move to 100% local renewable energy as soon as possible. And so I'm very proud of what this city has done to give birth to San Diego Community Power. And I'm proud of what the team at San Diego Community Power has accomplished so far. We have moved over the last several years. We've put together, assembled a team of brilliant folks that are inspiring to me, but also inspiring to our member agencies, and they're accomplishing a lot on our behalf. I think we now are up to about 18 team members, and we're expanding still more. And we've gone from 5 members to 7 members. So we used to be the city of San Diego, Encinitas, Chula Vista, La Mesa, Imperial Beach. Now we are those plus National City and the county, all of the unincorporated portions of the county of San Diego, which will come on in a year or so from now. So it is my privilege and honor to introduce our COO, Cody Hooven, who has been with us from the very beginning in the trenches. She's now our COO, highest ranking officer with San Diego Community Power. I've been told it's her birthday today, and so I've practiced a little song for her. So if you guys can come along with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cody. Happy birthday to you. Yay.
Thank you.
Also,
Sorry, I want to say one more thing.
oh, go for it.
So, and it's also Women's History Month, and she was just in the newspaper as one of the top 10 women in the county. So it's really exciting as well that you're here today, a superstar here with us on your birthday today.
Right. I'm here to celebrate with you all. Thank you.
Another, I did want to also, I would be remiss if I didn't also recognize another superstar in our audience. Rita De La Fuente is our Director of External Affairs, so she is really instrumental in having SDCP be able to tell its story and let ratepayers and customers know who we are and what we're doing, which is essentially, we are the first time in the history of this county giving you a choice for your energy providers and your energy products. We'll give you more renewable energy at an affordable rate. That's SDCP, and that's what Rita's job is making sure that our story is out there. So Cody will give you a little bit more.
Awesome, thank you. And yes, I'm here with Rita. She'll join me in a minute up here, and definitely another superstar and woman in our organization. We're scooping up talent because folks are attracted to the mission that we have. So we're really excited. We're a small team, so we have a lot to do, and it's nice to have really rock star employees helping us achieve it. Thank you. Enough about me. I appreciate all of that. I don't know how to make this go forward. Do we have slides available? There we go. Thank you. So just wanted to give you an update. I feel like I was both just here, and also it's been maybe 3 years since I've been here. It's been a blur. So to update you all a little bit about where we are now that we've been formed and launched and serving customers and about to enroll City of Encinitas residents, which we're really excited about. So as Deputy Mayor Mosca mentioned, we have grown already, and we have not only our 5 founding cities that you see there, but we are adding both the unincorporated county as well as National City, and we'll start serving their customers next year. So we're growing and we're open for business if anybody else is interested. Next slide, please. So just to remind you of what we are and how this works, so kind of flowing from left to right here, we provide the electricity generation for customers. So there's sort of 2 parts to how customers receive energy at home. There is the generation that we procure and deliver, provide to them, and then there's the delivery of power, the transmission and distribution, and that's that middle piece there. We just take over, and community choice is really now an option or a competition in the generation space for power. And then SDG&E is our local investor-owned utility, and they still maintain transmission and distribution. In fact, we partner with them, even though we now slightly compete with them on the generation side. And so there's a really close partnership with them there, and they provide and maintain the grid and do the billing and provide a lot of customer service for our shared customers. And then all of that ends up in electricity in homes and businesses. Next slide, please. So we were formed really from a kind of a groundswell of implementing climate action in our cities and really transitioning the energy sector. And so our values here are reflected. The first thing is really kind of an American value, right? Choice and competition. And that's what community choice programs bring to communities. So we're not a monopoly. We are a competitor. We're also not for profit. So when customers have a choice, they tend to win. And that's what we're providing to residents and businesses and the agencies that we serve. We're also local, so decisions about electricity rates are now made at the local level. That means that folks like you all here can attend meetings, can weigh in, can talk to your council members, can talk to us, and really dig in and understand electricity rates. And frankly, now more than ever, folks are asking questions and want to understand this better. We also now set the quality of the electricity that we deliver. So especially the city of Encinitas has been a leader in this, but we want to get to 100% renewable electricity, and we now have control over that decision. And then last, we're really striving for equity. So a lot of economies, and especially transitioning economies, have left out certain folks in communities that we serve. And so we really promote investment in our communities of concern and really making sure that this transition, this green economy benefits everybody and not just some. Next slide, please. So we've had a lot of successes since we've been here last. We call ourselves a startup, so we've been building up a whole organization to serve our customers, and we have built a core internal team, as Joe mentioned. We also established a partnership with SDG&E, and really there's a lot of work we do behind the scenes with them to make sure customers' bills are accurate and folks frankly feel a seamless transition to our service. We also formed a community advisory committee. So community was very important to us and to our board. It was actually part of our name. So we formed an advisory committee to allow community members to have a seat at the table and advising the board on decisions that we're making. And then of course we launched is what we call it. So we started serving customers. Last year we started serving both our municipal accounts. They were kind of our testers, which is just the cities themselves, their own buildings. And then we started serving our commercial and industrial customers. And so while that was about 70,000 customers last year, it was about half of our energy load. And then we enrolled many, we call it Power 100. It's our option for 100% renewable. We enrolled many customers, definitely targeting big commercial customers that were really excited about this option. And those included organizations like the San Diego International Airport, now taking fully 100% renewable delivery from us. Illumina, which many of you know is a big biotech here in San Diego. And if you recall, some of the criticisms folks were saying way back when was, you're not really going to buy new power, and we've already proven them wrong on that as well. We have signed a lot of long-term renewable power contracts. So we're currently up to 340 megawatts of brand new build renewables. So that's new jobs, new build, new investments in the economy, and 220 megawatts of storage, which is also really cutting edge for our industry to be pairing storage with those renewables. So for those of you that aren't really nerdy about energy, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of power. And we're really excited. We're going to be signing more contracts and bringing more new development to the region. Next slide, please. So another way that Encinitas is leading the way is your default program is Power 100, which is really exciting. You're our only member agency right now to have defaulted into Power 100. So that gives customers, and all customers have multiple choices. Of course, they can opt out. We hope that they don't, but they can choose to opt out and stay with SDG&E. And then they have two choices between Power 100, which is fully renewable delivery to their homes, or Power On, which is about 50% renewable. So Encinitas should be very proud of themselves to lead the way, and of course they have choices between both of these. Next slide, please. And you could see a comparison. We get these questions a lot. How do you compare to your competitor? So SDG is currently at about 31% renewable. So our Power On product is offering 50% renewable, and our Power 100 product, of course, is at 100% renewable power. Next slide, please. Thank you. Another ways that we compare, so our board really strives to maintain cost competitiveness to our customers. So we know and we're very aware that overall costs are rising across all sectors, and we're all suffering from that, but we really strive to not only provide a cleaner, greener product, but keep it cost competitive, and we're actually currently slightly lower cost than SDG&E. And of course, we offer a greener, higher renewable energy content or a greener product. Our Power 100 program, so SDG&E has a comparable program called EcoChoice. Our Power 100 program is dramatically lower cost than theirs. In fact, so much so that they're shutting down their program because it couldn't compete with us. And then last, one of the other things that I think customers are really going to value as we get off the ground and get up and running is programs. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to take any investments that we can make and put them right back into the community. And this is going to be something that we're kicking off with our community power plan. And that's really a way for us to do a survey of our communities that we serve and understand what do they want to see in their communities. Do they want to see more EV charging? Do they want to see more rooftop solar? Do they want to see other options, or just continue to maintain competitive rates? And we really want to hear all that and then develop more programs around that for them. Next slide, please. So we're here because we are enrolling the City of Encinitas in April. And we talked about our schedule here, so I won't repeat it. But next is Encinitas is rolling April, and then May is San Diego and Chula Vista, and then next year we'll be enrolling the county and national city. So folks in Encinitas should be receiving mailers. Our website is live and active for them. They can go on and do cost comparisons and all sorts of information. We're definitely open to feedback on how that's working for everybody. Next slide, please. So one thing about what's changing and what's not changing, so we find, and we actually track this when we ask customers why they're making changes to their accounts or why they're opting out. And most people just get a little uncomfortable with change. So we want to share with you what's changing and what's not. So what's not changing is billing. Customers still receive one bill. We work behind the scenes with SDG&E to work out all those details so that customers, it's as seamless as possible for them. And frankly, a lot of folks don't even notice that they were enrolled because of that, but we're really trying to be active in helping them understand what's happening. Your service reliability is also not changing. So SDG&E is still responsible for transmission, distribution, maintenance of the grid, any sort of power outages and those types of things they still address. And another thing, this is more important for commercial customers, but rate structures. We've mirrored our rate structures to be very similar to SDG&E. Just at least while we're early in our startup phase, folks can understand if they were on a certain rate with SDG&E, they could do a really easy comparison to see how our rates compare to theirs by being on the same type of structure. And then most importantly, for a lot of customers, the discounts aren't changing either. If you're on a care or a FARA customer, these are medical baseline, low-income type of discounts, those automatically transfer over and you receive the same exact discount that you were receiving before. So day-to-day, this shouldn't change for customers except that they could feel better about having cleaner power delivered to their homes. So what is changing, obviously, is the cleaner power. We are here, we're out in the community, we're customer service oriented, we're very transparent by nature. We're actively working to educate customers on their bills. As complicated as those are, we have some experts on our team in putting out information on our websites and mailing out to homes. Competitive rates, for the first time, again, customers are seeing competition in this space, and it's very much needed because customers win on that space. And then reinvestment back into the community. Because we are a not-for-profit agency rather than a investor-owned or private sector company, any excess revenue that we generate will get invested back into our communities. And then, of course, I mentioned this already, but we're building out new programs and really want to serve the customers and meet them where they're at and what they like to see in our communities. Next slide, please. So I'm going to hand this over to Rita now to talk about getting the word out. Thank you.
Thanks, Cody. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here today. It's so great to be in Encinitas. My name's Rita De La Fuente. I'm the Director of External Affairs, and my job basically is to build relationships with the communities that we serve. So part of the ways that we do that is was through our marketing campaigns. So I just wanted to share briefly some of the creative work that we're doing. We're working with a local PR agency, Civilian, and they've put together a couple of concepts that have been really successful so far. The one that I am most proud of is this the concept on the left that we're calling the My Reasons campaign. So this is great because it actually features real people from each of the communities that we serve, and it's people that can relate to our mission on a personal level. So for Encinitas, we're featuring Oren Zizlansky, the founder and CEO of Flock Freight out here in Encinitas. So as a business owner out here and someone who was born and raised in Encinitas, he can relate to our mission and what we do on a sustainability level and on a consumer level. Also on the right, we have the concept that we're calling the Oh Yeah And. So this is basically to mimic two neighbors talking to each other. Again, this is to build familiarity and relatability so that people can get comfortable with exactly what it is that we do. Along with these concepts that will be shared and are being shared on social media in English and Spanish, we're doing a big push with our local publications, and that includes community newspapers in Vietnamese, Chinese, Spanish, and Tagalog languages, as well as a broad range of different outreach tactics that we're using. Next slide, please. And this is where we're going to end our presentation and also end with an ask for anyone who is watching this presentation and has any ideas for us of ways to get out in front of the community. That we've found that the most efficient way to explain who we are is just by talking to people. It's just great when we're able to actually answer questions and have a face-to-face conversation, even if that's virtually. So I want to, first of all, thank our Encinitas staff liaison, Crystal Najera, along with our community advisors from Encinitas, Gary Johns and Tara Hammond. They have been crucial with providing ideas for us of where we can be to reach the Encinitas community. And so with that, if anyone has any ideas for us, my name's Rita De La Fuente, and I can be found on our website, and we'll end there and ask for questions. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you. That was very interesting, and we're so proud and thrilled to be doing this program and that you're having such success. I did have a couple questions, actually. So my first one is, the timeline showed that in April, we will flip the switch on moving over into this 100% renewable power sources, right? So when you said that the programs mirror SDG&E programs, and we still get the bill from SDG&E, when you call the customer service number to have a conversation about which program you should be on, are they going to be versed in which programs we're offering?
Yes, yes. So that's a great question. They will be versed. We work very closely with them on the customer service level as well. And we also have, customers are receiving mailers, these nice, I wish I brought one. They look like our design here and have our phone number and information there as well. So they can call us directly or call SDG&E. They'll either be connected to us or SDG&E can answer some of their basic questions for them. But there's two options for customers and they should be walked through all of that if they call.
Okay, and so, because other cities have gone through this process, because it does concern me that, I mean, a lot of people call their utility when they have a billing issue. So they're looking at their bill and it's too high, or they want to do an audit, or they want to see if there's a different program. So when they call, there will be the option of saying you can be routed over into a San Diego Community Power rep who can talk to you about which program you should be in. Because there are a lot of programs, right? There's like, if you have an electric vehicle, you have a different program, and if you're low income, and if, I mean, there are all these different programs. So I want to understand that part a little bit better.
Yeah, so customers, I do wish I had it here, and maybe we could pull up our website, but customers can call the number that's on their bill, and if the customer service rep understands that it's about the power generation, they'll automatically be routed to us, and we can answer all of their questions about different programs they're on. They can do a lot of changes to their own accounts on our website directly. So all they have to have is their SDG account number, and can log in and opt up or opt down, also through our website, and read more information there. So it should be as seamless as possible, but if we hear we've actually heard a couple times that this number is confusing or something, we've immediately corrected that on our website if it's misleading to people. So we're open to feedback, but so far we're hearing a lot of seamless transition between call centers.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I don't think people are going to know to say, I'm calling about power generation. Like,
Right.
I think they're going to be asking for a particular type of program, and
That's correct.
I really want to make sure that we're adequately, that SDG&E is adequately trained to answer those questions.
They are. We work very closely, and anytime we find something that was confusing, we go through and correct. They have scripts and different things. We correct those to make sure they're clear, and their customer services reps understand it by asking questions to the customer what they're calling about. We don't expect customers to say, I'm calling about power generation.
Right. And then my second and last question was about, when you said Encinitas was the only one that has opted into Power 100, I was just curious, and I thought that was unfortunate. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if any of the other, like the county, or if they're still going to be there after us in terms of their implementation, if they would be given the option again, or if everybody's already made their decision that they don't have 100% renewable default. And I'll just say that I was speaking publicly with members of the elected San Diego City Council, and I said, I think Encinitas is the only city that has 100% renewable default. And they said, no, that's not true. We do too. Like, I think they thought that they do. So I just wanted to see if there are maybe options to get more cities into that.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And as much as you could do a little peer pressure, I think that would be excellent. The two cities that we haven't yet enrolled, so the agencies, the county and National City, both have a choice still to set their default. And then any city that's already enrolled can choose to opt up their city, so at any time. So it just requires us to notice customers again and make sure we have incremental power available to them. But every city in our service so far has defaulted their municipal accounts to Power 100. But citywide, Encinitas is the leader in that by far.
Okay. It's too bad that others haven't followed that. I did feel personally like that was one of the most important reasons to create a CCE, was so that the default was 100% renewable.
Yep.
You can opt into dirty power, but it's not something that is, and you're defaulted into clean power. To me, that was like one of the most important things.
Yeah.
But it's too bad that other cities haven't made that choice yet.
We're seeing, for example, the city of San Diego is updating their climate action plan now, and I imagine that might change the decision that they've previously made for the default. And other cities, as they update their climate action plans. I don't want to speak fully for your city's climate action plan progress, and maybe Crystal can comment on that, but by defaulting into Power 100, you're achieving half of your emission reductions that you set as targets just by doing that with a flip of the switch.
Right. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kranz?
Thank you, and I wanted to thank Cody and her team. I've received a couple emails from constituents that were concerned about issues related to opting in or opting out, and you've been very responsive, and I appreciate that. I think that the issues have been addressed when they had complaints. I also wanted to take the opportunity to emphasize the whole community program part of this, because as we push hard to transition our transportation sector to more electric vehicles, we're going to have a significant demand for more electricity. And so it's my hope that the programs such as microgrids and more solar on rooftops here in our own community would be a big part of the solution for addressing that greater demand. So it's my hope. I know there are some pretty important first steps that we're going through right now, walking before running, but I hope that we can get up to speed and get focused on those things pretty quickly. And I wanted to thank Gary and the other community member who is I can't recall the name that you gave. And, but I appreciate that all the effort that's gone into getting us to this point, and having them as part of the community committee is really valuable. So I look forward to the years ahead as this becomes more mature and we can see some of those community programs taking place.
We're very
you.
excited about the programs as well, so thank you.
Thank you. And I'll ask the city clerk if we have any public comments on this item.
We do. We have one. Gary Johns.
Speaking of Gary, he was my appointee to the Community Advisory Committee, and he's done an excellent job, and I just want to personally thank him for serving on the Community Advisory Committee along with Tara Hammonds.
And it's a great pleasure to do so. I sent in a slide. Okay, that is my contact information. And well, first of all, let me just say it's a pleasure and a privilege to be able to talk to the council about this. And I want to do two things here. And the first thing that I want to do is just to introduce myself as a member of the Community Advisory Committee. And I like to think of it as a public communications channel between SDCP and all the residents and business people in Encinitas. And to get that channel open, we have to have the ability to contact each other. So I've sent in the slide with my email address, and also if you just use my name to look it up on Facebook, you'll find me there too. And it's Johns with an A, which always confuses everybody. Sorry about that. And I also want to say that, as was mentioned, SDCP has a marvelous website with the contact, the call center phone number listed. It's got the online form that you just fill in and describe what it is that you want to get the information about, and so that obviously we're trying in every way to contact with people. But I wanted to say that if anybody wants to talk resident to resident about a question or concern, or maybe just pass on an idea for doing things better, that I would be glad for you to contact me for that. The other thing I want to say while I'm here is congratulations. Congratulations to this city council and some of the past council members that saw the vision for community choice energy as a way of reaching our climate goals. And a special congratulations to the staff of Encinitas. They have been tremendous in doing the heavy lifting on this project. And a final little personal plug is I want to congratulate my colleagues on the Sierra Club team. We formed just about 6 years ago, not quite 6 years ago. We saw this as the one thing that we could do personally to fight climate change. And we like to think of ourselves as sort of the unofficial cheerleader for this process in front of the city. And I appreciate those people that I've been active with, and it's been wonderful.
Thank you so much for your comments, Gary. We really appreciate it.
Did I run over 3 minutes?
No, your 3 minutes is now up, though. Thank you. Is that the end of public comment on that item?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the presentation. We appreciate it. We're going to continue on with our, thank you, Gary, for your comments. We're going to continue on with our agenda. We do have 11 public speakers for oral communications. And I'm just going to, as a reminder, read the code of conduct for oral communications. The audience and speakers are asked to be respectful and courteous. Please address your comments to the council as a whole and avoid personal attacks against members of the public, elected officials, and city staff. So with that, let's go ahead and hear the public comments.
Okay, we actually have 12. I'm going to call you 3 at a time. And just a reminder that you have 3 minutes. Randall Sims, Rob Longo, followed by Bonnie Bobzian.
Good evening, City Council. First, I want to thank you for your leadership in one of the most difficult times in recent American history. I commend you and thank this council. We'll only take a few moments of your time. My name is Randall Sims. I'm a cannabis industry executive. Before recreational cannabis was made legal in 2018, I owned one of the top medical cannabis delivery services in San Diego County. My company was based in Encinitas and paid this city, the state, and the federal government a considerable amount of taxes. Medical cannabis was and is federally legal, but the IRS had no problem accepting our tax money at the time, which is kind of ironic. Over the last few years, this council has heard an enormous amount of misinformation regarding the medical uses and effects of cannabis. I would simply like to read you an email that I received from an Encinitas citizen who was one of my services patients. When Prop 64 passed, I had to hand the patient off to a legal dispensary because I closed my business down as it was Prop 64 non-compliant. So I haven't been in touch with him since 2017, and I do not have permission to mention his name or the patient's last name, who is his wife. But her first name was Marjorie. Through an unfortunate accident, she had broken her hip, and she was in severe pain. She was on a combination of methadone and Vicodin, which wasn't really doing any good at the time, he had told me. So a doctor we work with at the time had recommended a combination of Charlotte's Web CBD, which is a strain that was actually used in the tests that prove that CBD is effective against treating epilepsy seizures and seizures from other diseases. We combined that with a microdose of THC oil during the day, which was non-psychoactive. After taking these meds, she had taken them for a period of months, and her husband had sent me the following email after that. Dear sir, you saw my wife Marjorie, last name redacted, and me a few months ago. She has been on your Charlotte's Web night dose and Tiny RSO day dose since then. I'm so grateful to tell you that her methadone use has stopped. Vicodin use is down 2/3, and she is 70 to 80% pain-free for the first time in a decade. We now have hope for the years ahead. Thank you so much, and his name is redacted. Thank you for your time. Have a nice evening.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you in advance for your time. My name is Robert Longo. I'm a veteran industry executive, currently serving as Chief of Supply Chain for a licensed cannabis company that generates millions of dollars a year in revenue. It's critical to the licensed cannabis industry to see cities like Encinitas creating a legislative framework for legal cannabis business to operate. Licensed cannabis thwarts the black market and provides a safe product that is tested, state-approved, and legal to purchase by consumers over the 21 years of age. It is critical to consider that the tax framework created for these Encinitas retail cannabis groups will determine the success of whether citizens here purchase their cannabis legally or continue to obtain their medicine from unlicensed sources. Various entities in the state of California tax the product to the tune of 30% of the gross before it reaches this city. The lion's share of that tax goes to the state, but the city of Encinitas would receive a portion of the sales tax. So creating a municipal cannabis business tax will just adjust the tax burden on the citizen that wants to abide by the law and purchase legally. Furthermore, it will drive many consumers to continue to purchase from the black market. Subsequently, this allows black market retailers to thrive and continue to sell cannabis illegally. Citizens of Encinitas passed Measure H in Proposition 64 in order to keep cannabis off the streets, rather than distributing it through a legal sales framework. In order to do this, taxes need to be kept as low as possible in order to compel residents and tourists to buy legally. I advise you to consider keeping the retail business tax for cannabis as low as possible in order to create a healthy cannabis industry in Encinitas that gives those who need their medicine a legal option to purchase. Thank you for this time. Thank you for your time this evening.
Next speaker is Bonnie Bobzian, followed by Wendy Shalhoub, followed by Tony Julapur.
Thank you. We represent a group of residents petitioning the city council to obtain permit parking on the 4 Encinitas streets where we live, via Palacio, via Saracen, via Valina, and via Tavira. On November 8th, 2021, our petition for permit parking was approved by the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission to be placed on the agenda of the city council. We were told by the traffic engineer department that we would probably present to the city council in early February. We have yet to be placed on the city council agenda. We have had difficulty learning and understanding the process by which a petition moves from the commission to the city council agenda. We hope you can clarify this process for us. I have been contacting the city clerk and traffic engineer's assistant nearly weekly to learn the date our petition would be discussed by city council. We need some advance notice since we are organizing a group of 20 people for a city council appearance. 4 months later, our petition has still not been forwarded to the city council. I contacted the traffic engineer concerning the delay. He informed me that he disagreed with the decision of the commission and was doing an additional investigation. He told me he didn't know when the additional study would be complete due to COVID-related staffing shortages. Joy Lindes has provided much help and guidance on bringing our issue to City Council. On March 3rd, 2022, she shared with us that there were 2 issues delaying our petition from being placed on the City Council agenda. One issue was the traffic engineer's report contained statements that directly contradicted our reporting. The second issue was that our petition had been sent to the city attorney for review due to a recent case law, number 14-304, Vehicle Code Section 22507, opinion dated 2016. We have several points of confusion and frustration. Even after phoning or emailing the traffic engineer, city clerk, city attorney, and the director of infrastructure and sustainability, we can find no one who can state the path a petition must take to progress from the commission to the city council agenda. Once the commission approves a petition, what are the steps that must be taken to move the petition to the city council agenda? There was uncertainty that the case law mentioned was the relevant case law being cited for review. Could you clarify this? After the commission approved our petition, the commission did not ask for a second investigation by the traffic engineer. We are not clear why a second investigation was necessary. What is an appropriate interval of time for a petition to be delayed prior to moving from the commission to the city council? Could the method and findings of the traffic engineer's study be made available to us in advance of the date our petition appears on the city council agenda? The case law cited as requiring city attorney review dates from April 2016. And I'm going to stop there and let Wendy take on from there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The case law cited as requiring city attorney review dates from April 2016. However, the city council has granted permit parking since that time. Seaman Drive in 2018, Pacific View Lane and Seaview Court in 2019. Why has our petition required extra scrutiny, and how long will the review take? We wish to contact the city attorney for information. We've learned that there's a new city attorney arriving at the end of the month. The city clerk, the city attorney's office couldn't tell us the name or start date or how long it will take to review our case. There's been a great influx of vehicles from the nearby apartment complex, the Resort, which is the largest apartment complex in Encinitas. It's the behavior associated with the non-resident occupants of these vehicles that is the source of our distress. These behaviors include vandalism, relentless trash comprised of beer bottles, beer cans, food containers, drug paraphernalia, defecation and urination on our green belts, loitering in cars for hours drinking alcohol, loud music and conversation at late hours in front of our homes, verbal harassment of young women on our street, and vehicles blocking fire hydrants and driveways. Vandalism, as retaliation for reporting incidents to the sheriff, has occurred 4 times. The 4 streets are being used as a commuter and commercial center. All the foregoing has made our residents feel unsafe. We believe we fulfill all the requirements for permit parking as stated in Municipal Code 14.41.030, and we comply with the case law. The Commission also believed we fulfilled all the municipal code requirements and favorably approved our petition based on testimony from our residents and photographic evidence. We're prepared to document our compliance. We've spent hundreds of hours working over a year investigating, documenting, communicating with city officials as well as the resort management and legal team and residents of our 4 streets. The issue is vital to us. We hope you can clarify the questions we've raised this evening and facilitate our petition being placed on the City Council agenda, and we'd like it on by April. We've sent a list of questions to each of you by email, so we're hoping someone from the city can answer them.
Thank you for your comments. I'd like to ask that the city manager provide a report to the council about the situation that was mentioned there. Are you talking about this topic too, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want to?
Let's wait till, I'm sorry, I thought it was just the 2 of you, but go ahead, you can make your comment, sir.
Hi, my name is Tony Jolopur, residing at 213 Via Palacio. Just addressing some of the security issues. My wife and I, living with two teenage daughters, moved to this residential back in 2016. We have enjoyed our community and loved our residential area so much until about a year ago. Basically now feeling very unsafe. Having non-residence vehicles parking in front of our homes mainly causing safety and security issues in our residential areas. These individuals park their vehicles in front of our homes most of the times, stay in their cars, chatting, drinking, listening to music until late hours at night. In few instances, these individuals were sleeping in their cars. Basically, we had to call the sheriff's office to sort of check them out and provide them a citation not to sleep and stay overnight. Both my daughters have been followed by a few non-residents in our streets, in our residential areas. My oldest daughter, parking in front of our house, calls me or her mom to escort her back inside the house just because there are always few non-residents parked and sitting in front of our homes watching her. My wife and I walk the dog every night, but honestly, we're afraid to doing so because every time we go outside, there are people, there are non-residents staying in their cars. These cars are pickup trucks, most of them commercial or whatever. They're tinted, hard to see. The only time you can see is noise, drinking bottles around the cars, listening to music or whatever. So that's basically causing us to be concerned just even to go outside our house with the dog. Anyway, these unsafe environment and security issues are happening basically on a daily basis. Both my daughter's bedrooms are facing the street. How would you feel to have 4 non-residents staying in a car, drinking and listening to music right in front of your house until late hours, sometimes 1 to 3 a.m. in the morning, causing your family members to stay up all night and feel insecure? Besides safety issues, there's also health and hazard issues, smog and gasoline smells caused by non-residents' vehicles. Most non-residents have pickup trucks carrying containers of gasoline. There has been gasoline container leaks in one instance it left on the sidewalk, where we had to call the fire department for assistance and clearing up the mess. Non-residents also run their cars to warm up while they're staying in the vehicles. This is causing smog to enter our homes. As I mentioned, both my daughter's bedrooms facing the streets. So because of the safety and the smog coming in, they have to sort of close the windows and lock it.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Last year, hit and run. A couple of weeks ago, sheriff came by and basically said most likely by a non-resident who was drunk.
Sir, thank you for your comments.
Just one last sentence. I made numerous calls to sheriff's office regarding non-residents' illegal activities, but my wife is concerned about this, as she feels that the non-residents may basically,
We appreciate your
I
comments.
consider
Thank you.
retribution, retaliation. Thank you for your
you.
time. And there was one picture I wanted to show you, if you could bring it up. all these cars are non-residence vehicles. None of those cars belongs to any 8 houses on Via Palacio. There's only one car that parks on the street, and that is my car. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. City management is aware of this issue. Actually, tonight, we do have the agreement for new city attorney. That's our only action item. Our new city attorney, if approved tonight, is actually sitting over there. We will be tendering this to the new city attorney for an actual legal opinion. The current city attorney that we have did offer some information, but since we had a new city attorney coming on board, they didn't opine. So that's one of the first assignments that we have for our new city attorney, if approved this evening. So we will go ahead, get the information. We will then reach out to the residents with what the next process is and where we're going. One of the things we do want to just make sure is we do often look for our city attorney to give legal advice to make sure that we put council in the best position and making the best decision. So we are aware of it, both the city manager and myself as assistant city manager, and staff is working on this.
Next 3 speakers, Christine Schindler, Peggy Walker, and then Geraldine Kessler.
Good evening, Council. Christine Schindler, East Encinitas. So I wanted to come back and talk about El Camino Real, Manchester, from Santa Fe to I-5. I want us to transform this corridor, and I think some of the things that will be talked about later on could come into play here as well. So you should be getting a number of stakeholder letters. We folks from Bike Walk Encinitas Bike Walk reached out to stakeholders on the corridor, and we got a lot of support for improving the corridor for all road users. So you should have heard from the Grower School, ICA, which was formerly Lux, Miracosta, their student government, and other entities. So I just want to cheer you on and bring some attention to this much-needed entryway into our city, and the fact that it's going to get higher use walking and biking because of the NCC build improvements. I also know that I wasn't here for mobility and traffic safety, but on Monday, Ross Ryder and others spoke in support of some pedestrian improvements that they want to see on San Alejo, Manchester. The area that's very constricted, gets a lot of use, people going to and from the nature center. So I certainly want to support that when it comes to council. And it's a very constricted roadway, and it would be helpful to have sharrows in that area. So I would just add that to their request. And I didn't realize this was going to be a special presentation, but certainly very excited to see San Diego Community Power. Probably 10 or more years ago, Lane Sharman, Solana Beach Clean and Green, brought up community choice aggregation. I had never heard of it before. So it's very exciting to see the progress that's been made in 10 plus years throughout San Diego region. And I'm so happy that it's come to Encinitas and that it's 100% renewable opt-in. So that's fantastic. So thank you for your leadership with that. And it was good to see Cody. She was one of my informational interviews like 15 years ago when I made my career shift, and that was when she was at the Port of San Diego, and now she's the COO for San Diego Community Power, so that's awesome. That's it. Thanks so much.
Good evening, Council. Peggy Walker. I'm with Coastal Communities Drug-Free Coalition. I just want to say, job well done on the birthday song. That was a nice touch. I came tonight representing a coalition of youth drug use prevention educators and advocates, colleagues and PTAs, public health and youth advocacy. These are also parents and grandparents and concerned citizens who have watched carefully as the marijuana industry steamrolled into our cities and county. So when we saw that Encinitas received not the 25 anticipated applications for marijuana permits here, but 206, we were staggered by that number. per item 8F on your agenda, which you'll address later. When it comes to home ground, we're very cautious. It brings to mind many questions such as, who are these applicants? What types of businesses do they propose? Where will they go? And how many will you permit? Even if it's a lottery, I believe the applicant can have multiple permits. So the question arises of, will the number of permits be much more than we expected? As I understand, Measure H limited retail outlets to 4, but placed no limits on the number of kitchens, cultivation, grows, and manufacturing businesses that can be permitted. This is concerning in part because non-retail businesses only have a 600-foot distance requirement from sensitive uses, and kitchens can be located in general commercial areas. Many of these kitchens resemble bakeries and are mistaken for regular bakeries, so you can see why this raises questions. So we ask, is there a way that you can place the applicant information, post it somehow so that the public can see it, see what kind of permits they seek and who they are? Because then we can look and see what these applicants look like in other cities. We can see how they operate, how they advertise, what kind of signage they use, and whether their marketing is targeted to youth. This will give us an idea of how these applicants, I know HDL will conduct the selection process, but if we can see the public who they are, it will give us an idea of how they will impact our community. So thank you for considering posting that information. Thank you.
Next speaker is Geraldine Kessler, who'll be followed by Trina Priest, and then Scott Campbell.
I would like to speak about the environmental nightmare housing project on Melba Road that is slated to take down a grove of mature Torrey pines, 173 trees, and 30 smaller trees and native shrubs, along with demoing a beautiful historical home built in 1938. We recently found out that there are 2 other smaller homes on the property that were built in around the same time will be slated for demo. All based on the ill-fated density bonus law, AB 2345. We received several more documents from the city about the potential density bonus environmental nightmare housing project and have found it to be once again filled with inaccurate information. My main concern is the tree count not being accurate, the drainage and hydrology, which will be sending the runoff to Ocean Knoll Canyon, and lastly, and most important, is the historical and cultural report findings that were done by Cogstone. As I said, the Staver and Torrey Pacific did not go back far enough on the history of this valuable piece of property, only to the 50s or later. I also mentioned before that Anton Van Amersfoort was the owner of the property. We have his name on a deed and an easement, and we found at the county and the city records. This gentleman from the Netherlands was a key player in the development of the agricultural community of Encinitas in the 1920s, along with being the original owner of what is now known as the Botanical Gardens. He was also the original member of the San Dieguito Water Board District in 1921, serving for several years. None of this is even discussed on the Cogstone Culture Report. I find this extremely disappointing that the Stavers just dusted over this important historical information the property holds to the community of Encinitas. They did not do their due diligence on this reporting. Why are the citizens and the community members doing the homework for these developers? When I go to work, I don't rely on my patients to tell me how to run my machines, and why are the Stavers and Torrey Pacifics allowed to hand in inaccurate information to the city, wasting the time of the already overburdened employees? I want to again point out the way Scripps handled building in Encinitas. Multiple meetings with the public and the planners, taking constructive criticism and working it into the final project. That is what a developer should be required to do in Encinitas. In the long run, it would help the city and the community run smoothly, not uphill battle constantly. Please work with the community to save this valuable piece of historical property in Encinitas for open space, which it is currently being used as. Please help us purchase the property from the Staver Trust for open space with soft green infrastructure funding. which aligns with Encinitas Climate Action Plan. Thank you for listening.
Good evening, Council. My name is Trina Priest, and I've been a middle school teacher for over 20 years. But as a teenager, I worked at my family's pharmacy all through high school. So I'm here on behalf of my father, a pharmacist, who was stunned recently to read that the city has received, as we heard earlier, 206 applications for marijuana businesses. He wanted you to know that every day in San Diego County, over 36 people show up at local hospital emergency rooms because of cannabis use interacting with the use of just common over-the-counter drugs. What the emergency department sees is a common drug interaction where there is an addictive effect of pain medication, anxiety medicine, depression medicine, and sleeping pills. These drugs can interact and cause oversedation. Also, patients who have a complex medical and mental health condition often are not aware of the drug interactions that exist between their medications and marijuana, which can quickly become a life-threatening situation. Encinitas residents and others should know that there is a website, drugs.com, that clearly lists common over-the-counter medications and prescription drugs and how they can interact with THC and CBD. Dr. Ronit Lev, Director of Operations at Scripps Mercy Emergency Department and an addiction physician, has said, quote, "Every day I treat patients in the emergency department with marijuana poisoning. Lack of consumer protection and proper labeling have left consumers at risk for potential harmful consequences." My father says that if you consume cannabis, you need to tell your doctor and your pharmacist to ensure that any potential side effects from use with other medications are avoided. So in closing, and as a reminder for dealing with marijuana businesses in Encinitas, I would like to share my father's mantra with you. Legalizing something harmful never removes the harm. It just changes the legal consequences, usually for those who promote, produce, or in other ways profit financially from the legalized substance or activity with little to no regard for the negative impact on individuals or society at large. Thank you for your time.
Final three speakers, Scott Campbell, Mark Wilcox, and then Michael Von Neumann.
Hello. I live in the Acadia district, and I'm going to talk about some of that, but I respectfully urge the City Council to direct the Equity Council to communicate with those three previous speakers. That sounded like a really serious issue. The Hotel Aldia Maria, before it was built, there were some really beautiful benches, and it was really nice. We lost those benches. Can we get those back? And along the way, I urge the City Council to work with Carlsbad to provide a safe means to reach the beach there. Right now, you have to do a very scary U-turn, now borderline illegal, and it's not safe. And we kind of share the thing there. We can talk about that. Okay, too much, too fast, too soon. Efficacy. Today, I went on the Coast Highway for the first roundabout. It was scary. It was way harder to transition than the existing ones on the Acadia Boulevard and the existing one on Santa Fe. I urge the council to do oversight and make sure that this works. Was the fire department okay with that? If a normal car can't barely make it, those big fire trucks can do it. And they have a lot of say in these design decisions. Once again, please check this stuff out. I went on Quail Gardens today to go to the eye doctor. I felt like I was on a roller coaster. It's the most perfect, smoothest blacktop, but every little manhole. Is that really what we want? We can do better. Efficacy, the rail trail. It is beautiful, but there's no bicycles. I thought it was a bicycle trail. And now we have this new bicycle thing that's coming up. Didn't we just go through this? Come on. All the pop-outs, the electrical unit pop-outs. Can't we do something about those? I'm going to talk about more of those too. The Acadia Boulevard. That road is a car wrecker. How's Fox Point going to impact the Acadia Boulevard? It's going to kill our cars. We got to think things through. The ideas are great, but we have to implement great too and do a review process to make sure that we're actually doing this great. There's a lot of housing projects coming up. 50 on La Costa, 130 on Piraeus, 150 on Union Street. A whole bunch of speakers talked about that. That street is narrow. It also has those hideous pop-outs. Those utility pop-outs. They get in the way with crazy stuff. They're interblocking the street. Why can't they get rid of those too? Yeah, these little pop-out parking lots. Just don't even have them if you're going to do that. Okay, the impact. Everybody talks about traffic, blah, 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 blah. Every one of these people is going to move around town. And we're going to impact with every one of these every single day. We're going to impact them at the stoplight, at the freeway on-ramp, at Starbucks. We're going to be behind them in line. It's already a long line. Now there's going to be a few more people. I just urge the city council to think about these little things. The idea is great, but the implementation is perhaps more important. 1 second. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Blakesbear and City Council members. My name is Mark Wilcox, and as a father and grandfather of 13 and counting, I have watched over our family for the last 2 years, encouraging them to stay fit and avoid activities like smoking and vaping that would weaken their lungs, and to avoid secondhand smoke and vapor. Thank you, City Council, for adopting the flavored tobacco ban here in the city that we all hope reduced e-cigarette and tobacco use in this city, as it has in other cities and counties. It was just over 4 years ago that the issue of adulterants in vape products, tobacco, and marijuana was big news. From the East Coast this week has come a new notice regarding the recall of over 500 different electronic vaping products containing substances not suitable for inhalation. Although some states put bans on the use of vitamin E, acetate, squalene, and other related substances in electronic vaping products, unfortunately, California was not one of these states. I believe in the power of public health policies that have at their center protecting our youth. It is especially important to parents, grandparents, and caring adults that our youth also do not seek smoking and vaping as a source of dealing with stress and anxiety. Better physical and mental health could be achieved through a flavored electronic marijuana product ban. Consistent with national trends, the use of electronic vaping products is much higher than cigarette use, so reducing youth marijuana e-cigarette use and vaping should be the goal for all of us. With the advent of deliveries through phone calls, emails, and texts, the choice of those under the age of 25, a flavored marijuana product ban is more necessary now than ever. What a statement of love and concern for young people it would be to realize and enact such a ban. Thank you.
Hobbling up here. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Michael Von Neumann, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. As the Council and staff decide what capital improvement projects to prioritize and fund, I want to draw attention to a roadway that needs attention, South El Camino Real and Manchester, between Santa Fe Drive and the I-5 interchange. Currently, this high-volume corridor is designed primarily for motor vehicles with high speed limits of 45 to 55 miles an hour. Other conditions along this roadway include no continuous sidewalks on either side of the road. It's pieces of sidewalk. Travel lanes vary in width and number. Bicycle lanes vary in width, with some being buffered and others not. There actually is no bike lane for a short length of road where the speed limit is 55 miles an hour. No bike lane at all there. There are no crosswalks between Santa Fe Drive and the Manchester intersection. There are 6 churches and temples, 4 senior care housing facilities, 2 schools, including a college, and access to a number of neighborhoods and businesses are all along this corridor. Realizing that the city has limited resources and many, many needs, it is unrealistic to expect the changes to this corridor that needs improvement to be highly prioritized for immediate funding. However, it is realistic for the city to prioritize some lower cost improvements to this corridor that will improve safety for pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists, even with the current and future volume. Some of the immediate improvements that can be quickly done with essentially paint on pavement are narrowing travel lanes to a maximum of 10.5 feet wide, widen and buffer Class 2 bike lanes, install a Class 2 bike lane where one does not currently exist, install continental crosswalks at the existing intersections or crosswalks, apply green paint at bike, auto, pedestrian conflict points, add pavement speed legends along the road, and lower speed limits to 35 miles an hour. This corridor is an entrance to our city. It needs attention. Improvements to this corridor should be included in the discussion of what to prioritize and fund in the upcoming CIP process. Thank you very much.
Mayor, that does conclude oral communications.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for the oral communications today. Now we will move on to, we do not have a report from closed session, right? Because we did not have closed session.
That's correct.
Okay. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the posted agenda. And then moving to the consent calendar, item 8F does have a public speaker.
Okay, I would entertain a motion on the balance.
So moved.
I'll second.
Councilmember Lyons? That's okay. There we go. Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to item 8F.
Okay, let's do a brief staff report and then we'll have the public speaker.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Planning Manager for Policy and Housing, Jennifer Gates. So before you on item 8F is an amendment to the existing HDL company's professional service agreement for an additional $470,250 for the additional contractual support. So this amendment increases our contract by this amount with a not to exceed amount of $568,900. And this increase in the general fund expenditures is entirely offset by the $1.3 million that was just collected through the business application fee revenues within the last couple of months. We, as previously stated in the public comments, the original contract had identified the potential 25 applications, and we did receive 207 applications. All of these applications, their businesses and potential addresses that they submitted applications for are all listed on our city website currently. And anybody can also email me at jgates@encinitasca.gov to get a link to that if they are unable to find that information. So we are currently asking the authorization to amend that professional services agreement with HDL, as well as to adopt Resolution 2229 to amend the fiscal year budget.
Okay,
and
thank
staff
you.
is available to answer.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear the public speaker.
Mark Wilcox?
Good evening again. I had some questions regarding the staff report on this item, especially the hold harmless statement beginning on page 12. As you know, both the consultant, HDL, and the city are stating that they won't hold each other liable for legal action, quote, arising directly or indirectly from the consumption or use of marijuana and or marijuana-containing products and liability for damages or injuries to third persons or property, end quote. What about the other types of marijuana businesses that might operate in Encinitas other than marijuana storefronts that sell marijuana products? For example, marijuana cultivation facilities and their myriad of problems, not the least of which is the emission of biogenic volatile organic compounds. Several residents have experienced firsthand the toxic effects of pesticides sometimes used in cultivation. Up to now, the city has passed the buck to the county and to the federal government for these damages. And what about manufacturing facilities who make the high concentrate marijuana products through a process that utilizes violative chemicals in the process, where biological hazards such as bacteria and fungi can cause respiratory issues, eye, skin, and throat irritation, nasal congestion, and other adverse health effects, or mold exposure due in large part to the high humidity levels required for marijuana production, sometimes as high as 70%, which can cause wheezing, coughing, trouble breathing, respiratory infections, and exacerbation of asthmatic conditions. With the additional contractual support, I wonder if the city has also budgeted for the services of an industrial hygienist to perform air monitoring of marijuana manufacturing facilities, including checking for proper ventilation or water runoff, or for CO2 exposure, an asphyxiant which interferes with the transportation or absorption of oxygen in the body. But back to the damages or injuries to third persons or property through a marijuana consumption. At UC San Diego, a freshman who died when he fell out of the 8th floor window of a campus dormitory in October while under the influence of marijuana and alcohol is an example of that third person injury that resulted in death. Perhaps there are more precautions that need to be put into place to protect Encinitas citizens and especially our young people. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. I'm going to move approval of this item.
I will second that.
I just have a question, Madam Mayor, on the motion. Well, not on the motion, but on this item. So we are authorizing additional sums of money because we have to review these applications. All of these applications were received in accordance with the measure that passed in the ballot. We have to review all of these applications and give them due diligence, and they if they all pass the different hurdles, then they're part of that lottery as well.
That is correct.
All right, and then my understanding is that there were several companies that filed multiple applications. Did that go through the legal process as well as reviewing whether or not they can have multiple applications, or there's just one application they can file per entity?
I think that our new legal attorney needs to review this question that you've just posed. So I don't think it's, to me, this is not a settled issue yet. So, and I don't think this is part of HDL's analysis, right? Yeah.
All right, so that legal question is open, and but for this item, we're authorizing, because we have to review all 200 of these pursuant to the measure, and then to determine whether or not they qualify, and then they would be part of the lottery if they qualified. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and vote.
Motion carries unanimously. That does conclude the consent calendar, and that takes us to action item 10A.
Okay, thank you. This is the Resolution 2022-32 for professional services agreement for city attorney services between the city and Jones Mayor, designating Tarquin Preziosi as contract city attorney. And so I will hand it over to our Administrative Services Director, Schwarm. And then also, do we have any public speakers on this item?
We have none.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Jace.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Today we present to you consideration of the appointment and approval of professional services attorney services agreement with Jones Mayor, appointing Tarquin Preziosi, if that's the way you pronounce it. And also adoption of Resolution 2022-32, approving the appointment. If we go to page 2 of the agenda report, the highlights of the professional services agreement provides that the city attorney works at the pleasure of city council. The agreement is ongoing unless terminated by parties. The scope of work is defined as part of the agreement and was part of the RFQ process, and it covers the areas and criteria that the city council carefully crafted. As to compensation, the compensation is a little bit different. It is a flat $20,000 per month, and that includes all general services for city attorney services. There is additional charge of, it defines special services, but special services will require the approval of the city manager or designee. The designee would be me for those services, and also litigation. And for the first 18 months, the per rate per hour is $250. The next 12 months post 18 months would be $265. And the third set would be $275 per hour for the very last 12 months. The additional $275 will continue unless negotiated by the parties based on increases required based on CPI or whatever. Also, they provide insurance and indemnity provisions to the city. I'd like to, if there's no questions on the high points of the agreement, I'd like to introduce Tarquin and his associate, Scott Porter. Tarquin?
Thank you, Jace. Thank you, members of the City Council. Thank you, residents of the City of Encinitas. We are happy to be here. We are honored to be here tonight. A little bit of background about my firm. Jones & Maris has been providing exclusively municipal services for close to 50 years. We have approximately 20 city clients, innumerable special districts, innumerable law enforcement agencies as client throughout the states. I myself have been practicing for over 20 years, again, almost exclusively public agency representation, either as an in-house attorney or as an outside contract attorney. My areas of expertise or areas I focus on are land use, CEQA, the Coastal Act, fair housing, related issues, with a special expertise in cannabis. Scott Porter, who would be the assistant city attorney if we were selected as city attorney, he has a true expertise in land use. He's a statewide expert. He's called upon by agencies all across the state to opine on various land use matters.
Would Scott like to say anything himself? He would be handling the planning commission, right?
Correct.
So we will see you there.
You'll see me at the planning commission meetings, and I've heard a lot of positive things about the city, and I'm very much looking forward to working with you all.
Thank you. Let me see if any of my colleagues have any. Yes, we do. Deputy Mayor Mosca.
No questions. Just wanted to welcome Tarquin and Scott to our city, and we're delighted to work with you guys and your firm and with you guys. So thank you.
Councilmember Lyons.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make note of the fact that I think our staff did a really good job of advertising for the position, collecting resumes. We got a lot of interest in the position, a lot of skilled candidates, and we were very fortunate to have so many skilled candidates interested in working for the city and helping to facilitate getting our new city attorneys here on board. So I just wanted to say thanks. I thought it was a very well done, thoughtful, and logical process.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that, I will move approval of this agenda item.
Second.
Madam Mayor, Council, I would like to thank Devaney, Pate, Morrison, and Cameron for their interim city attorney services. We have worked with them since October 2019, and we certainly appreciate all that you have done. And and a sincere thank you.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Our Leslie, who normally covers the meetings, is not here today, but please pass along to her and thank you to your firm for all of the great service over the last 2 years. We've really appreciated the help as the interim city attorney. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Blake-Spear and council members. We've been honored to be able to serve as your interim city attorney, and we wish you good luck with your new city council or city attorney. Thank you.
Just one comment. I was looking at the contract and looking at the scope of work, and just remembered that this project started several years ago with our prior city attorney, Glenn Sabin, where we were kind of tasked with expanding that scope of work and kind of updating it. And just looking at the scope of work, that was actually developed in part by myself and Jody Hubbard.
That is correct.
And so it makes me think of my former colleague and miss her. And so this is actually partly a legacy of Jody as well, because some of that language came right from Jody.
That is correct.
Well, thank you. Let's
Thank
go ahead
you.
and vote.
Motion does carry unanimously, and I'd also like to say thank you to Leslie's firm, to all of the attorneys that helped us out, and also to Michelle. She was the administrative secretary. She coordinated so much for all of us, and so please pass that along, not only to all the attorneys, but also to Michelle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, that concludes item 10A. So now we're on to, there are no informational items under 11, so we're moving on to 12A, which is a council-initiated item from Councilmember Hinsey and myself regarding prioritization of quick build projects to improve safety on city streets. And do we have public comments on this item?
Yes, we do, Mayor. We have 4.
Okay. Councilmember Hinsey, would you like to say anything before we hear the public comments, or hear the comments first? Okay, let's go ahead and hear the public comments.
Okay. Christine Schindler, Michael von Neumann, Dan Vaughn, and then Will Radigan.
So Christine Schindler, East Encinitas. I just want to thank the mayor and Councilmember Hinsey for bringing this forward. And that's it? No. I think this is fantastic. So this is something that Will is here from San Diego County Bike Coalition. He'll speak to the fact that the city of San Diego is doing this quick build to move things forward in a better way, a quicker way, a less costly way to put immediate changes in place for safety. So I'm looking forward to being able to move some things forward that we've talked about, like tonight with the El Camino Real Manchester corridor. And I fully support it, and I just want to thank you for bringing it forward, and I look forward to where this goes. Thank you.
Hello again, Michael von Neumann, Encinitas resident. I strongly support the council-initiated item regarding prioritization of quick-build projects to improve safety on city streets. Encinitas continues to be impacted by increased volume of vehicle traffic due to increased population in the city and the surrounding areas. Much of the traffic uses Encinitas as a throughway to the freeway. As traffic volumes increase, motorists experience congestion and delays, which result in frustration and irritation. I'm sure we have all experienced these feelings when we've been driving. Dealing with frustration and delays oftentimes results in motorists driving faster to make up time when they perceive they can. Driving safely requires attention. Distraction and frustration are not good for safety. Faster speeds, distractions, and congestion create unsafe roads and streets, not just for vehicles, but for all users, bicycles and pedestrians. Designing and implementing changes to the current roadway infrastructure to deal with these conditions to improve safety and efficiency is expensive and time-consuming. As we can see with Streetscape, over 15 years in the making. not to mention the challenge of building consensus about what changes are needed and can be done. Utilizing quick build tools, Encinitas can quickly create safe and efficient facilities on our streets, resulting in safer intersections, slower speeds, and better connected bike and pedestrian networks. Strongly encourage adopting this policy. Thank you very much.
Ann Vaughn, and then Will Radigan.
Swing the switch. So I'm here representing OTC. Back in 2018, we talked about a Rancho Santa Fe Road task force. We deferred that slightly past the elections just to depoliticize the issue and build consensus in our community. In early 2019, we met with Abe at the Old Town Hall and started the process of building that community consensus, which we were largely successful with. And we identified reducing congestion during peak hours, but not increasing speeds, and prioritized public safety in the area. In 2019, while we were working, we lost a resident to a vehicle striking him while walking. David Goodblatt. He was a professor emeritus at UCSD. His wife, Sonia, was in the hospital with a terminal condition, and it was a tragic loss. Helped her daughter, Karen, with a memorial service for the community later that year. We presented the task force findings last spring to the council. And a lot of them were what people were talking about here, paint on pavement, reducing speed limits, adding the first crosswalk to Rancho Santa Fe Road between the Carlsbad City Line and Encinitas Boulevard. We don't have any. Unfortunately, Tuesday morning, a young girl riding her bicycle to OPE was struck by a pickup truck on Rancho Santa Fe Road at Lone Jack intersection. I want to compliment the council for looking at faster ways that we can remedy the safety issues. Not sure that the big plastic pylons and bright colored lights are the right solution for everywhere. I don't think that they're terribly compatible with Olivenhain. But doing something to help our citizens be able to walk to school, ride their bikes to school, safely navigate, I think is a huge priority. The young girl was rolled up onto the trunk of the pickup truck and rolled off. She didn't sustain any major injuries, and she's been seen more recently with her mother walking her across the street on her way to school. So it wasn't a fatality, it wasn't a serious injury, but it was a serious issue for this family. Right? You can imagine as a working mom, one more thing to do in the morning. And what about the tragedy and angst of the whole community as they rallied around this young girl? So I want to wholly embrace the cause of faster, less over-engineered solutions to these desperate needs, but maybe let's involve the staff in right-sizing the solutions for each of our communities. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Blakespear and members of the City Council. This is Will Radigan with the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition, and I'm just here to express our full and enthusiastic support for this quick build resolution. We could not be more excited about it. It's been used in cities all across the country, and Encinitas really has an opportunity to continue leading on bike and pedestrian infrastructure by implementing this resolution. So in the last few years, Encinitas has set two extremely ambitious goals for bike and pedestrian infrastructure. The first being Vision Zero, which proposes to eliminate all traffic fatalities by 2028. And the second being the Climate Action Plan, which, although it doesn't set clear metrics, seeks to shift as many trips as possible to active transportation. And with over 50% of emissions being due to transportation in San Diego County, That's a core part of the city strategy and really has to be a core part of the city strategy. While we're in full and enthusiastic support of these goals, we also acknowledge that they may not be possible using the kind of conventional construction techniques that Encinitas has been using in years past. While conventional projects that require years of public outreach, engineering, and planning can take years, really 5 to 10 years to reach completion, quick build projects can be completed within the span of weeks by teams moving quickly and with much more limited public outreach because these projects can be modified throughout their lifespans. Luckily, we have a great example of this right here in San Diego County recently. So Sandag's Pershing Bikeway through Balboa Park is a perfect example of how quick builds can radically expedite the construction process. Conceived of in 2013, the Pershing Bikeway went through 7 years of planning, engineering, and public outreach before it broke ground this year on January 25th. The final project, which will be a grade-separated bike path parallel to Pershing Drive, is expected to take 2 years to complete. However, within 3 weeks of breaking ground, the project team was able to complete a separated bikeway on the other side of Pershing Drive from the final project using only paint and movable concrete barriers. And while it might not be as aesthetically pleasing as the final project, it probably offers about 95% of the exact same safety benefits. So this is just an excellent example of how quick build projects can be radically cheaper, radically more efficient, and can provide almost all of the same safety benefits. And some people might think that they're a little less beautiful. You know, you're going to have concrete barriers, you're going to have plastic bollards instead of permanent concrete curbs. But all of these things are so much cheaper and more efficient to implement. So again, I really want to thank the City Council for taking on this resolution. You've already been leading San Diego County on bike and pedestrian infrastructure. By carrying this forward, you have an opportunity to lead the nation. So thanks a lot, and we look forward to continuing to work with you on this.
Thank you. Did you ride your bicycle here?
I live in Chula Vista, so
No. Somebody rode their bicycle. I see it. And okay. Well, thank you for riding your bicycle here. And thank you for coming. Okay, so Councilmember Hinsey, would you like to say a few words about this item first?
Sure, I will. Well, I want to start off by thanking Christine and Judy Burlfine, who couldn't be here tonight, and Michael, because they really initiated this process by continuing to come to me with priorities and places where they could see things that would be able to be accomplished quickly and achieve a lot of the goals that the council has. So what they did was they circulated a petition during Cicla Via, and they actually collected signatures from Encinitas residents who are in support of this. So that was the genesis. And then I'd also like to thank Will and Jesse O'Sullivan from Circulate San Diego. Will's from San Diego Bike Coalition, but they kind of supported us with a lot of different best practices happening in our county already so that we could look to other cities, City of San Diego, who has a really great quick build program and a whole team to implement that, and really measurable goals. So they set goals of 9 miles of protected new bike lane every year. And so some of the goals we've identified here are to be measurable. So we've identified 5 quick build projects to come forward in the next fiscal year. So thank you to those people, and then also to our own staff, because we actually are already implementing quick build in the city with our cycle tracks, and we have an example here of a roundabout that was created in Councilmember Krantz district. Things that are not a roundabout, traffic circle. Things that are working really well and actually solve a lot of these problems that we face cheaply and inexpensively. And as Will mentioned, if you try it and it works, then you can plan for a more longer term version of that. But you also get feedback once you have it out there. So basically all this policy is doing is to give us a policy, an umbrella to sort of look and prioritize the way that we see capital improvement projects. I've been involved advocating, first as sitting on that side of the dais for, it's been 8 years now, I think. And a lot of these projects you just see sitting there on our prioritization list that don't ever move forward. So this is a way that hopefully we can address some of those longstanding projects, move them off the wait list, and then continue to save money and move quickly for the other parts of town that we want to address. And the last part of this that I'll say is that We've already been a council. We already have a culture here of doing these kind of projects and being really ambitious with mobility. But even for all the projects that we've accomplished up to now, the appetite and the demand that we saw surface during the pandemic is probably beyond our wildest imaginations. And so now we're in the position of having to do everything we can very quickly to keep the users of the road as safe as we can. So by joining NACTO, which is this national alliance, we'll have a lot of expertise at our fingertips. We'll have best practices. We'll be eligible for increased programs to do these kind of quick builds. And our staff hopefully will feel bold in going forward with ideas because they'll have a community of practitioners who can give input on that. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I also really appreciate the people who came to speak and the effort that went into helping us get this on the agenda as a concept. I mean, I'll just share that I think improving our transportation network is something that has clear political support from every single member up here, and it has clear community support. And so, you know, we talk about this, we invest our city money in it, we give voice to it, we have events like Cyclovia and build coastal rail trails and Leucadia streetscape projects and protected bike lanes and all sorts of things, but there's still so much left to do. And I think for me, the idea of this quick build, in my mind, it's a different way of saying tactical urbanism. It's like the idea that you want the corridor to start functioning as you envision it, even if you can't afford to build every part of that right away. And so my experience in 7 years of being on this council, and then 4 years before that on the Traffic and Public Safety Commission, and having so many different dialogues about why can't we do more faster, that there has been a perception, I think, that this community either wouldn't accept something that wasn't at the highest aesthetic standards, or that they wouldn't, it somehow wouldn't be successful. And I think when we were talking about Leucadia streetscape, the whole push and what we're currently doing is make that corridor of 2.5 miles function in a post-Leucadia streetscape way. So slower speeds, continuous bike lane, and the roundabouts that we can put in there, and then the parking pods. So the functionality of it being top priority. So there are some serious financial commitments associated with Leucadia streetscape. I mean, substantial, but the conversations around, like, why can't we build a roundabout that has bollards and concrete pillars? It's like, really, it comes down to sort of our acceptance of that aesthetically, and also a recognition that sometimes there are ADA and drainage and other things that we have to deal with if we go into a road. So when we go into the road, we have a lot of additional responsibilities. So the question of what the city of San Diego is doing, and I think the example of Pershing Bikeway, which was mentioned in the public comments, was a really good one, because Sandag did do really quickly a protected bike lane on a road that has high speed and volume and kind of is a little bit of a snaky road, and it really is not safe for cyclists. And so having a protected bike lane that had these bollards next to it allows that road to instantly become so much safer. And so we've heard a couple comments today talking about, well, what about Manchester where it hits El Camino Real? And it's a great example of a really wide road with so much capacity, but doing a huge Leucadia streetscape type project there is years and years away. It's just way too expensive, and it's not the top priority, honestly. I mean, that project, until tonight or in the last couple of weeks, has almost never been mentioned to me. I mean, but Rancho Santa Fe Road and the third roundabout on Acadia Boulevard and La Costa Avenue, you know, the drumbeat of La Costa Avenue, when are we going to improve La Costa Avenue? You know, and then El Camino Real. So it's like you get back to the reality that we have so many different roads that need attention. But if we were willing to accept some of these things, and I think just laying them out in the staff report is really important, quick build tools can include rubber driveway humps, hardened center lines, additional striping, decorative crosswalks, bike ped detectors, signal enhancements, truck aprons, bollards, pavement legends, and signage. And so focusing in on how can we make these roads function better, even if we can't build to the ultimate aesthetic, I think that's a good idea. So, and I think hopefully my colleagues do too, and clearly Councilmember Hinsey does because we put this on the agenda together. But the focus on, safe routes to school and Vision Zero and climate action plan and mode shift, those things, we talk about them perpetually. So having some of these very specific things that are in the staff report that say, like, we want to join NACTO officially. We want to make sure that our transportation engineers and officials who work in those departments are actually training with best practices and going to conferences and getting newsletters and staying up to speed with what other cities are doing. And then having some of these metrics to evaluate where we can do high priority projects. And in some ways, we might be just giving more voice to some things we're already doing, because we actually are doing a lot of road projects all the time in the city. And I know in our budget, we put, I think it's $250,000 into like safe routes to school projects and some other ancillary areas, but it's been that number for a while. So talking about bumping that up a little bit in our budget session, because we know gas prices are high and through the roof, and that construction inflation as well is so high that really, $250,000, how many projects is that really going to get us in a year? And it used to get us farther, but it might be something we need to put more money into. And then, of course, continuing to focus on the private developments, and when those go in, what are the improvements they're making, and how are they helping us achieve those goals, those mode shift or our bicycle master plan or those various goals. So I think this is a really good idea, and I'm grateful to Kelly, Councilmember Hinsey, and also to the community members who have pushed it. And I also just want to recognize that in this county, both Sandic and the city of San Diego are really out front in this now. So I think there are examples in this county of where things are being built faster, and there is less of a public outreach period. So 7 years of public outreach is like simply too long. There has to be some bounding around that, and then we do really good public outreach, and then we make a decision, and then we move forward and build it. So I think that's part of what Quick Build is. And there's also, this is not mentioned in here, but it's really important that we, of course, always preserve our design immunity, because we have to follow a certain process so that if there is an accident on the road, we have done everything we can to make sure it's safe, and also so we don't have liability for that. And it's important that we continue to be completely committed to our design immunity standards and expectations, which I think we do and will, and our attorneys will keep us on the straight and narrow there. But anyway, I'm excited about this, and I do hope that it might push us forward a little bit to be a little bit faster with being able to deliver this for our community. So let me call on my other colleagues here. Councilmember Krantz.
Thank you, and I do appreciate this coming forward. As I read the report, it did occur to me that much of what you're identifying in the report is our sentiments and efforts that we've been making as a council for many, many years, and that sometimes it takes elevating it and adding it to the agenda and having this explicit conversation and making those bullet points and asking the city manager to prioritize these things in a much more explicit way. I recall, well, first I got involved in the city business with the proposal for roundabouts on Acadia Boulevard. I live on Hygeia, so that missing roundabout has always been very frustrating for me, because it's a project that was conceived as a 3-street roundabout project, and we've only had 2/3 of it done for the last 15 years or so. Roundabouts really work, and I would encourage you to let the roundabout on Highway 101 be finished before you judge its effectiveness. I agree. It's not done. Yeah. So I get that, and I think the other challenge that we have with roundabouts and traffic circles here in the United States is that people aren't used to them. So I see people waiting for all the cars to get through, and they could have cut in, and so they're different. Us Americans, we have our way of doing it, and we're not quick to adopt these kind of changes. So I look forward to them being in place for a little bit longer and becoming a very much more useful part of the traffic calming toolbox that we have. We have traffic calming on Summit in Cardiff. We have traffic calming on I'm drawing a blank on the name of the street.
Rubenstein.
Rubenstein, that's it, Rubenstein, yes. So I think those are all good, and I look forward to adopting this resolution and joining NACTO. Being part of those organizations is very important. I remember when I first put a council member initiated item on to adopt Vision Zero approach, we decided to do it on the cheap, and it didn't work as well. So now that we're a little more formally involved with Vision Zero, it's my hope that we can avoid some of the tragedies that have happened between automobiles and pedestrians over the last several years. So thanks again for bringing this, and I'm looking forward to any opportunity we can to make the period of time between conception of a project and implementation much shorter. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lyons.
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank my colleagues, Mayor Blakespear and Councilmember Hinsey, for putting this forward. It is. I also see that there's a lot of interest in the community in moving in this direction. I would like to just add some constructive input. And I think it's kind of captured in what you've already presented, but I'd like to just emphasize it, and that is that as we're looking at this and as we're defining quick build, I'd like to also be clear and intentional about our streamlining of our internal processes to get there. And I think sometimes that seems confusing to the public. You know, there's a good idea there, but it's like, what is the process for getting that idea into planning and into consideration? Is it a quick build? Is it a CIP? You know, what is it? So our internal processes about how we define what a quick build would be and kind of identify it as that, and then a look at streamlining our processes so that right from the idea, it moves quickly. And I'm just saying, you know, some of our larger projects, they do take time. They do take time. They would not be a quick build. You know, anything with drainage, well, significant drainage, anything with significant ADA, anything that you need to acquire right away, anything that you have to move utilities. I mean, those things take a long time, which is one of the reasons some of the other projects haven't moved forward that quickly, and those would not be eligible, I would think, in how I'm reading this, as a quick build, because they do have complexities that take time. But just an emphasis on our own internal processes to get these quick builds through our system very quickly. And I just want to also kind of say that in the way of managing expectations. I think once we have a quick build, then we want everything to be quick build. And, you know, who doesn't? Everyone wants to move the things forward quickly. So, but I just want to kind of shine a light on managing expectations. There still will be many things that can't be done as quickly. But I look forward to the things that are captured here in your council member initiated item. And I'd like to move to approve this item.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Mosca.
Well, I would second it, but I think that there are two people that brought it, so I will third it or fourth it. No, I'll reserve it for you guys. So I did want to say, I won't repeat everything that everybody has said so far, which I agree with. I just want to say that I support these recommendations. I agree with what Joy just said in terms of the process that needs to evolve. Not that all of our projects could be quick build, and you know, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I do think that we need to have some process to see how this would be actually implemented. And I think that for me, when I think about what this means, because it's kind of formalizing what we kind of already do. But I think about the Rancho Santa Fe Road Task Force, and I think about other opportunities I've had to interact with the residents. And you know, oftentimes people say, well, we just need a crosswalk here to make it safer. And it's going to take you how long, how much money, how many attorney hours? I'm just going to paint it myself, you know? And so I think that this really allows us to kind of streamline that process and really get some of the improvements out there to improve the roadway for the users, because they're using those roadways now. We need to improve it. And so this will allow us to do that in a more effective manner, because the need is really great in this city. And I did want to say to Dan that we do have money in this fiscal year budget for Rancho Santa Fe Road and hopefully next year, fiscal year as well. And I'm happy to see Michael and Christine advocating for El Camino, Manchester, from Santa Fe down. Part of it is identified within our ATP, our Active Transportation Plan, but part of it is not. There's a ginormous gap there. And so you guys are absolutely right to identify that, to call us on it, to advocate for that. And please do bring the advocacy to our CIP meetings, because we need to do something. And this would be a great policy. The one that we're discussing tonight would be great application for this corridor, and love to see something happen in that corridor. So thank you, and I definitely will support this.
Okay, thank you. So I think we had a motion by Councilmember Lyons, and then we had a second by Councilmember Mosca. So let's go ahead and vote.
It was actually Councilmember Hensy.
Oh, okay.
Seconded, just so everyone
Okay,
knows.
great.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, everyone who came out to speak on that topic. Now we are on to our council member reports pursuant to AB 1234. Councilmember Kranz. Nothing? Okay, Councilmember Lyons?
No, nothing, no.
Councilmember Mosca?
I did have a report, and it's not necessarily completely on target with the report from one of my committee meetings, but I did think that this would be a good opportunity to make a statement. And so excuse me if I get a little bit emotional when I make this statement, but I did want to read a statement to you. After significant consideration and discussion with my family, I'd like to announce that I will not be seeking another term on the Encinitas City Council as your city council member this November. I'm extremely grateful to my city council colleagues and to the voters for the trust that they have placed in me to serve our community for almost 8 years. 2 years on the Parks and Recreation Commission and 6 years on this, almost 6 years on the City Council. I've enjoyed every moment of the journey, and I'm proud that what we've accomplished together. We've made a difference for our community and for the communities of San Diego County. With the time that I have left on my term of office, I remain committed to serving the challenges that face our city. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. City manager report. City attorney report.
Nothing this evening.
Okay, city clerk report.
Yes, I have a couple of items. First, I just wanted to announce that the Youth Commission recruitment is currently taking place, and this is for the 2022-23 school year. Applications are available online. We also have an unscheduled vacancy on the Senior Commission. We had a commissioner resign because they're moving out of the city. Those applications are also available online. And then I also wanted to announce, I wasn't allowed to do it last week, but Claudia Bingham is retiring, and her last day at work is tomorrow. So I couldn't go without acknowledging her thousands of hours of sitting at council meetings, preparing minutes, public records requests. So we'll dearly miss her. It's been over 23 years that she's worked for the city. But I'll introduce you to Pete Weikers, who is in the city clerk's office. He's been with us for almost 3 years now, and he will be taking over the position of deputy city clerk. So very excited changes, and not gonna lie, I'm a little envious of Claudia retiring, but very excited for her as well.
Wow, 23 years. That's a long time. Okay, well, there's a lot of momentous announcements today. And with that, we are adjourned.